Early Years Scotland is a third sector organisation, national organisation, and we work with and for our youngest children in Scotland to try to help achieve better outcomes at the earliest possible stages. Our guiding principle basically in terms of our work is that if it's not leading to, or we don't believe it's leading to better outcomes for children, then we don't do it. Finally, it's my great pleasure to introduce our chair for the evening, Mr Hugh Owen. And Hugh will be quite at home in circumstances such as this, because Hugh has worked for the BBC for 25 years in London and in Glasgow as a reporter, producer and manager. But let's see if Hugh's up for the challenge with the early years sector this evening.
I don't know if that's the right preparation.
So over to you, Hugh.
Thanks very much, Jean, and thanks for asking me to come along and get involved. It's an area I don't know a huge amount about, but having worked for UNICEF over the last couple of years, it's certainly an area I'm keen to find more about, and I'm sure I will in the course of the afternoon and evening. But we thought, just to kind of maybe get us started, we might actually look at the question, and what age should children start, and we might have a little show of hands.
I would like the panel to, anybody who would like to reflect on three elements that I think that together you've addressed. The first, I think, I was going to say it third, but I'll put it first. It's children's agency. Who is this for and what it's about, and why on earth are we talking about being ready for something?
The factors which I think deserve debate are teachers' knowledge about how young children learn, how to design a learning environment that supports children's thinking, and the final one is, how do we plan for effective learning experiences? Children in Scotland generally start school between 4.5 and 5.5, which is much earlier than in other countries. And there is no evidence that starting school later is a disadvantage in terms of educational outcome.
And I'm speaking on behalf of Upstart Scotland because Sue can't be here. Upstart and its supporters believe that young children should start their formal schooling at 7 instead of 5. And if I had an hour to speak to you, I would talk about the changing face of childhood and the complexities of it and some of the current challenges our children face today. And this would involve a decline in active, outdoor and self-directed play over about the last 2 decades. And simultaneous to that has been a steep rise in obesity rates, sleep disorders, mental health disorders and developmental learning disorders. Meaning that children actually arrive in school at 5, whether they've been to nursery or not, without a lot of the prerequisites for learning that perhaps we used to take for granted.
Do I support the aspirations of a play-based curriculum focused on health and well-being, outdoor learning and reducing inequality? Absolutely. And I think there are pockets of fantastic practice, but it's how do we achieve consistency nationally?
So for me, the question, is not so much when should children start school, but what is there for them when they get there? What is the quality of the experience that we are providing for them?
We recently were in Inspective Education Scotland, and they asked me to describe our establishment, and I said it was creative and it was enabling.
With a wealth of knowledge and experience and expertise in early years education here, the first question I need to ask is, who was consulted about standardised national testing at primary 1? First question. And 2, do you think it's a good idea?
I don't think polarised debates are helpful. I don't think it does children any good at all to let them spend 11 years at school and then say, sorry, the system wasn't fair, but we'll try and make it better. And in 11 years' time, we'll tell you whether or not what we've done works. That's no good. I don't think it's fair on teachers to say we want you to close the gap, but we're not going to tell you what the gap is.
And then to project forward to 2021, when we anticipate that there will be an expansion of early learning and childcare to 1,140 hours. And I suppose I was stimulated by Sue's point when she started to explore the whole idea of social justice. So just to give that context from 2004 through to 2021, what the policy context is, how does that influence your thinking around what age children start school?
I don't think we can change the system. I don't think the system's up for change. And I know you've got really good points, Elizabeth, but I don't think it's up for change. And I think we have to look at what can we improve within that system? And it has to go back to the knowledge about how young children learn.
First of all, thank you to Hugh. There were a number of themes obviously came through there for potential next question time events. I'm delighted to say I could list them, but obviously some key themes were around environment, experience, individualisation, over age of child or name of provision. We talked about the role of testing. How interesting would that be to have a particular focused debate on that, looking at standardised testing and its role in early years. A lot of reference to family and the importance of family, and I could go on, but I'll not. I'd like to say a very, very sincere thank you to each and every one of the panellists for your contributions and your preparation and for bringing all of this to life this evening.
I loved the debate. I thought you had panellists who were really interesting, but I also thought the audience was really informed and interesting. And the audience made so many different and important points that it really did mean that conversation developed.
Sometimes I think it's important to be radical and to say something that wakes people up. And I think what's come over during the debate today is that I feel most people on the panel were actually looking in the same direction. So what we need to do now is really think about frameworks, think about what needs to be changed so that together, through professional collaboration, we can actually help children to attain their full potential.
I think what's emerged from the debate is that there's a lot of similarities between the Upstart campaign and also the other panel members in terms of what we want to look at is effective learning for children. The Upstart campaign are hoping for children not to start formal education until the age of 7, which I don't think is possible within our system. But I think where the agreement is that we have to look at quality learning experiences for the children within the early level.
I think there are lots of small changes we could make that would actually have a big impact. If we looked at children's own perceptions of play and used that to help us to change the curriculum, we might enable children to become more engaged in their learning and for them to take ownership. I think we still need to look at transitions and not just tinker around the edges. I think we could engage with families more and I think there are some system changes that would really help us to implement kind of more effective transitions.
I think it's been really interesting hearing the views from the floor, particularly around the importance of training, the importance of the contexts for learning, and the importance of continual professional development for early years practitioners. So certainly I think it's for myself and my colleagues in the sector to take that on board and so that we can inform the training that we provide and make sure that it's fit for purpose.
I feel that what we need to look at is the environment that children live and learn in rather than the age that they're placed in that environment. I did feel that the 3 key themes that I hold particularly dear to my heart, i.e. knowledge, quality, knowledge and transition and family engagement were all seen quite clearly to be really important.
It's more to do with all the many good things that happen in the early years classroom. Parent engagement is key and parents are very engaged and very welcome in early years. It's what happens, the rot sets in when you go to primary and secondary, and these sectors can learn a lot from the early years setting.
Well, any type of system change takes huge amounts of energy, huge amounts of money, and can often actually distract from the actual activities that go on that actually makes children's lives better. So any politician has to actually look and decide, are you going to change the system and put your efforts into that? Or actually you're going to just live with the system you've got and actually power up what happens within that system. So I think within Scotland, we'll deliver better results for our children if we just power up what's with the system that we've already got and make it operate slightly differently.